Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. After having secured our own food security, I think we can look towards the global food security also. Think about a situation where price of food suddenly goes up by 60–70% within a few months. We may be able to afford food, but what happens to those in Africa, in South Asia, and Southeast Asia and Latin America? That's an issue which is very critical, and for many people in this world, is a life and death question at that time. But more for the policy makers, what to do, and that creates a sort of a panic situation. And here is something wonderful on the table, a long-drawn research into the political economy.
Thank you, Professor Gulati. Let me add my echo of welcome to all of you. Very warm welcome to this evening's discussion on a book launch that we at ICRIER are extremely proud to host, along with UNU WIDER and the India Habitat Center, Delhi, with whom we have an ongoing collaboration in another area of research that we're doing on urbanization. So it's indeed
advice, because volatility and spikes are going to happen again. So this motivated us, and we very much appreciate that Per took the challenge of working with us. UNU WIDER is a small institute as an institute. We are actually only about, well, now 15 researchers, but the importance of the wider institution is it's actually a global network. At any one point in time, WIDER has somewhere between 250 and 300 researchers on different types of contracts. And our relationship with India has been there from the very beginning, from 30 years ago. And I wish to say today that I hope that I can, as strongly as I can, communicate that we do want a strong, continued relationship with India. We think it's important that an institute such as UNU WIDER, which is an independent UN institute, can work with researchers in India, trying to formulate independent advice, independent research that hopefully can help inform the global policy debate about important issues.
Thank you very much, back to so many colleagues and friends. Thank you for organizing this, Ashok. Thank you, Dr. Kathuria, for hosting this effort, or this get-together. Ashok, of course, is part of this study, so it's not as though he did me a favor, because we're in this together with a whole bunch of other people. This was a team effort. There were researchers from 14 developing countries, from the EU, from the US. We had collaboration with a number of organizations, but it was really a triple collaborative arrangement with Cornell University, with UNU WIDER, and with Copenhagen University. This shows the 14 participating countries. I know you probably aren't fast enough to jot that down, but that will be, of course, in the book that will be available as soon as Oxford University Press releases it formally.
It's always a good opportunity to be invited as a chief guest, because it sort of goads you into reading a book. And increasingly, since I have donned my new hat, I have discovered that all kinds of people in all kinds of different places have decided that I have now vested with wisdom, and therefore I get invited to be chief guests across a diverse range of topics about which I know precious little. So therefore I'm going to be very brief and limited.
For too long, food security has been defined and continues to mean food self-sufficiency.
and essentially self-sufficiency of rice and wheat. And that's been the way in which much of the discussion on food security has happened in India and continues to happen in India, and the Food Security Bill continues to push the staple grain self-sufficiency and provision of staple grain agenda and not go beyond that. Now, when you think about the 1960s, when you think about the 1970s, that made a lot of sense. To say we are massively deficit in food grains, we need to do something about it, and therefore the Green Revolution and all of that happened. But today we're in a really peculiar situation of having adequate access to food grains